Session. Welcome to everyone. No council action making motions or approvals is taken during the work sessions. Tonight we have state of affairs updates and discussions with some of our community organizations.
So thank you for coming. We did invite a number of community organizations. We don't have a formal order for speaking. So I see some HBI representatives out there. Maybe we'll start with HBI and go down our list to see who's here. I know some of you wear multiple hats, which is fine, but we'll start with HBI if you want to do that. Excuse me, Pat, okay, if you want to come up to the podium and where our microphone is, we can catch you on the microphone.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
My name's Pat McCool. I'm the first vice president of HBI, somewhat acting president in her absence. We have quite a few things coming up this year, or I guess a few things, let's put it that way. Easter egg hunt, which will be in April. Following that would be the historic Bellefonte cruise. Then the Arts and Crafts Fair in August. Halloween parade, there was a bit of a mix-up this year, but we're not going to have that happen again the coming year. For October, Santa House in November, and Victorian Christmas in December. Any questions on anything? If I can answer it, I will.
Are you planning on keeping the same weekends, same dates, pretty much?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
the cruise is always Father's Day
Father's Day weekend, 13-14, actually. We're thinking April 19th for Easter egg. Cruise, June 13-14. Arts and Crafts, August 1st and 2nd. Halloween parade, October 25th. Santa House starts on the 29th of November to the 21st of December. Periodic days that he's in.
Sure.
And Victorian Christmas, 12th to the 14th.
What was the first event that you mentioned? Because I didn't understand what you said.
The Easter egg hunt that is held in the park in conjunction with the moose.
Anybody else have questions? Pat, I just have one. I know there's been some changes with the Arts and Crafts Festival, but that is planning to be held again this year?
It most definitely will be held. In fact, we'll be submitting the information for that here within the next few days, actually. We are yet to pick a chairman for the event. Depending on how that goes, why, I don't want to be saddled with it, but and the event must go on is the way I look at it, one way or the other.
We'll make sure.
That's very good news. Thank you very much.
It will definitely happen. Whatever needs to be done on the HBI part, if I have to, I'll step up and do it.
We've already divided up the various tasks to get started because the event is coming up pretty quickly. Okay, if I have to. Excuse me. We've already started as a board dividing up the tasks that need to be done, and everybody's going to just do a little chunk of it, and we're going to do it by committee this year if we cannot find and recruit a suitable chairperson. But it will happen.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any problems with working with like PennDOT permits or, our Public Works or anything we can help you with on that end?
Actually, doing the cruise for the last 16 years, I can't say enough for the borough, how much help you guys have been and cooperation and everything, and, and it shows. We had Dennis Gage in last year to film a show of My Classic Car, which aired 2 weeks ago. I currently have been getting calls from all over out of state in reference to it, with people wanting to come in and to our car show. And I actually only spoke to Dennis Gage that weekend myself 2 minutes. And he said, "Hey, you're busy. I only got 2 things to say to you." He said, "This is the best hometown show I've ever been at, and the most organized that he's ever seen." I mean, that's kudos to everything here, because the biggest comment from the people is how beautiful the town is and how well kept it is.
Yes, I don't know who does the soapbox derby. Is that HBI?
No.
No.
That was done, I believe, by
Alan Euler.
Euler,
Yes, Alan.
and I'm not sure. We had invited them at the cruise, and they did for a few years, but a lot of, like scouts and a lot of things, kids age out, and of course parents age out, I guess you might as well say at the same time. So I'm not even sure who's in charge of that anymore.
Pat, in years past, I thanks for the praise of the borough helping you, but it doesn't happen that way. I mean, you guys do a great job, and as a council rep, I'm willing to, as the borough is, to give you all the help that we can give you. So we appreciate that, what you bring into town, but that's part of your leadership that makes that happen. So we appreciate that. The other question I have for you is, weather permitting, you might want to contact the landowner where the possible hotel might go, because that could be used for some overflow parking for you,
We did
perhaps?
that, and we had permission last year and did use it,
Okay,
and we fully intend on doing that again.
great. Seems to make sense to me, but you know way better than I do. So.
Yeah, we've already crossed that bridge last year, and I sort of kept that under our hat because we didn't want to start down there until we
Sure.
were sure town was full,
Yeah,
and it worked out perfect.
yeah. Well, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Pat?
No, I'm good.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I see some BHCA folks, and I know, again, you wear multiple hats. If whoever, or a couple of you want to come up to the microphone, we'd appreciate it.
Well, I'm Joseph Griffin, president of BHCA. BHCA has been around since 1976. You're all maybe not familiar with the organization, but you're familiar with what the organization has been doing for the last almost 50 years. Mostly we're known for Summer Sounds. That's probably our most obvious activity. But we also have a Sunday afternoon concert series. So we have something kind of highfalutin and something kind of, for the hoi polloi. Those are two of the biggest programs for maybe 30 or 40 years. I'm not sure exactly. We've had the Arts and Crafts Show, which has been inside Victorian Christmas. I mean, it's basically we have a little part of it. Last year, we tried to do something similar with the cruise. We sponsored a jitterbug contest, and we had it, and we had a contest, and we gave away a bunch of prizes. And we didn't have that many contestants, I think maybe 7 or 8 couples, but it was fairly well received, and we're going to try to do that again next year. I'd like to say that BHCA is undergoing a lot of change. It sounds like HBI is undergoing some changes too. Because it was founded so long ago and the people stuck with it, they loved what they were doing, they all got old. Our treasurer is like 84, 85. Our secretary is 84. We had a young vice president who got mad and quit. And now I'm the president, and I'm a green 80. So a bunch of octogenarians are running this thing, but the change is, as we all got old, about a year ago, I suggested to the group that they were just eventually going to all die and then the money would go to some other nonprofit, or we could try to rejuvenate it. And the decision was made to rejuvenate it. So we've recruited a number of new board members. We changed the bylaws. We set up a committee structure. We've recruited about 40 members. Technically, we had 0 members because our terms had expired. When the COVID hit, they stopped collecting dues, so we had no members, no officers. We just had a bank account and a tradition of putting on interesting shows for town. So we're going through a pretty significant change, and it's not the smoothest thing in the world. In addition to the big signature programs that you're familiar with, last year we introduced something called Bellefonte Borough, which was very modest. Not too many people noticed it. The few people that did notice liked it. We had musicians stationed along Allegheny Street. Originally it was meant to kind of interlace with Friday in the Font. But we discovered that Friday in the Font was actually Friday, it was in the park, not in the font. But we stayed in the font. And so for about, I think we did it 3 or 4 times. We spent maybe a couple $1,000s. We subsidized buskers, and people seemed to like it. However, the cost-benefit ratio wasn't quite right, and we're going to investigate, I can't say we're going to do this, we're going to investigate with the county administrator to see if we could maybe have a busker on Saturday afternoon at the courthouse. What we're really trying to do is to bring music into the streets of Bellefonte. We're trying to make the town more interesting than it already is. That's basically what we're trying to do. But BHCA is different than HBI or the Chamber or DBI. We're artsy. Our mission doesn't mention economic development. However, if we make the town interesting and we put on a lot of programming and people come and see the programming, indirectly, we're responsible for economic development. But one of the biggest new things that happened when I became president was we just said we got to get some money because we're spending more money. We're spending more money than we're taking in. So we started to apply for grants, and I applied for a grant at the Happy Valley Adventure Bureau. We'd never done that before, and we got $12,500. And we got that money because I made up a story. I said, oh, we're going to do this, that, this, and the other thing. I suggested 4 things that we were going to try to do, all of them new, things we'd never tried before, and I admitted in my grant application that we might not succeed in all of them. One of them, the easiest one to pull off, you've already heard about, because we tried to do it and we didn't do it, that was the Easter Parade. We were going to do that with Helen Fox, and she just got a little nervous because she didn't think we had enough time. Well, April 20 is still pretty far away from today, and as far as I know, Helen Fox has not got cold feet, so we're going to have an Easter parade. Now, that's not a really big deal. That's a bunch of people in hats and nice clothes on Sunday, Easter Sunday, walking down the sidewalk while a little brass choir plays Easter Parade. It's no big deal. However, there are other more complicated things we're trying to do. One, which we haven't made much progress on, I have contacts out, but it's not gelling yet, is a contest for barbershop quartets. I've spoken with the Barbershop Harmony Society, the National Society, and I've tried to reach out to the Nittany Knights. I've had a conversation with one of their people. That's moving pretty slow, but the idea is to sell tickets to a formal competition of barbershop quartets. There are about, I found 11 of them within 100 miles of Bellefonte. There are actually 2 of them in Center County. The idea is to have people come in and have an official competition using the rules of the Barbershop Harmony Society, although it won't be a legitimate competition because those are only run by the Barbershop Harmony Society. But the first prize will be $1,000. And so it'll be if we can pull this off, it'll be a fantastic show, and a whole bunch of people will come in, and it'll be in the evening, so they'll have to stay over because they're coming from far away. So that's the Happy Valley Adventure Bureau. We have 2 other things. One is, this one will probably never happen, but I'm trying. It's Bellefonte Bicycle Day. That was supposed to, originally it was 3 things happening simultaneously. One was just kind of a big display of antique bicycles around the courthouse. And there's a group, and it's in my notes, and I've actually forgotten about it because we just let it go for a while. But they would be demonstrating Victorian bicycle and old bicycles and talk about bicycle safety, and they dress up in funny costumes, and they just kind of stand around. That's not that interesting. The second was going to be a hill climb. That's interesting. And of course, that means we got to block off streets and stuff. And the third thing was going to happen on Bellefonte Bicycle Day was a penny farthing competition where people rode those old Victorian bicycles around the thing in Talleyrand Park. Everybody I've talked to in the bicycle world says, whatever you do, don't do that. Now, I will tell you that a little town, I think it's Frederick, Maryland, has one of these bicycle races in their downtown. People come internationally to compete. The guy who won a couple years ago was from Sweden. It is like Victorian Christmas. I mean, it is a gargantuan thing. So anyway, that's also kind of in the background, but we're working on that. But I think it might not happen. But what will happen, which I'm going to talk about, is Civil War weekend in Bellefonte. And the borough is familiar with the ins and outs of this thing. We've been trying to schedule it. It was supposed to happen in April. Now it's scheduled for June 6th, 7th, and 8th. And if you want to know what Civil War weekend in Bellefonte is like, it's kind of like Victorian Christmas in the summer, because it's got three components. On Friday, it's the VIP thing. We're going to sell tickets. We're going to try to get $100 a person. You come to the American Philatelic Society and you listen to really highly qualified, fancy speakers. You hear one speaker. Well, first you go to a reception and you drink fine wines, and the waiters are dressed up kind of funny, and it's very, very shishi. Then speaker number one, then speaker number two, and then there's a speaker number three is in conjunction with a really fancy dinner, a catered dinner, probably costs us $60, $70 a head just to buy the food. Fancy, fancy, fancy. This is to bring people in from Ohio and New Jersey and South Carolina and whatever. So that's phase one. That has very little to do with anything else that happens in Civil War weekend. Although we do have scheduled for a downtown church a reenactment of Lincoln's first inaugural address. One of the things about Civil War weekend is it's kind of academic. It's a little more intellectual than you might expect for a Civil War event. On Saturday, we're going to have a reenactor encampment. Originally, we were hoping to have it on Tom Songer's property at the waterfront, and we contacted Tom Songer, and he said, I'm going to build a building there, like he says every year. He said, but get back to me in March. Well, we had this thing planned for April, so that wasn't going to work. So we originally had a date for Talleyrand Park. We needed the gazebo, and we needed the park on the other side. I can't even explain what happened, but there was always a conflict somewhere, and it went from April to May, and now it's settled down in June. But I did get all the application forms I sent in. The borough sent them back to me, so I got to refile them. But I'm here standing in the belief that you've got us penciled in for June 7th. Now, what's happening on June 7th? We're going to have an opening ceremony, hopefully at the courthouse. A reenactment of a recruitment rally. Some guy in a funny 19th century costume will try to sign up some soldiers, to go fight the Rebs. The encampment will open around 10 o'clock, either in the park or maybe even down there on Tom Songer's area. We'll have a book sale and author talks at the APS all day. There'll be a couple of simultaneous talks and presentations. Now, some of these may sound pretty boring to you, but one of them is the postal system and the culture of letter writing during the Civil War. That's at the APS. We're also going to have the 1860 presidential campaign. That was a doozy, just like the one we just had, as described in the newspapers of the North and the South. Those will also be at the APS. There will be a locally developed presentation. We've got some of the groups that are like the Daughters of the union volunteers that have said to me, we want to talk about this, that, or the other thing. Roland Curtin, I mean, you know, we've all heard of him. And maybe we'll have something about him from a local person. There will be a Civil War sermon, maybe that there's a contact I have yet to make certain. And there'll be a talk on the colored troops. There'll be a lunch with a speaker at the American Philatelic Society. There's going to be a train ride, maybe, out to Curtin Mansion. And the Bellefonte Historic Railroad Society and the Roland Curtin Foundation are working on that. We're not sticking our hands on that too much. There'll be a Civil War Q&A. There'll be another locally developed presentation. We'd like to have an itsy-bitsy, like a 25-minute parade, because we'll have a number of reenactors we'd like to peel off, and we have a Civil War reenactment band that I think we've got tied up, because we offered to pay them rather than getting to volunteer at their usual place. But these are people who play 19th century instruments. They wear more or less authentic Civil War band uniforms, and they play authentic Civil War music. So that should be super duper. And then, of course, we have the reenactment. Gary Hoover's the lead person there. We're trying to get 30 reenactors, but in particular, we want specialist reenactors. There's a reenactor embalmer in Lewistown, and you know, you can look them up on the web. Now, will we be able to snag him? I don't know. There's Doc Hayden and his medical wagon. This is an actual doctor who got interested in the Civil War, and he and his son built a Civil War-style wagon, and he's collected all these horrible instruments for, you know, sawing off arms, stuff like that. He does a presentation about the medical thing. So if the medical thing doesn't work out, you know, we move over to the embalming station. We're going to have a presentation on Civil War cookery. And then, of course, we're going to have a wet plate photographer. So if you're willing to pony up about $50, you can get a picture of you and your sweetheart taken with an old-fashioned camera. And you know, if a cloud goes over the sun, it just messes everything up. But it's old-fashioned all the way. And of course, there'll be the regular reenactors with the little tents and their packs and their guns. And depending on where we are, Gary may be able to shoot off his cannon or not. That kind of depends on the exact location of everything. Anyway, we have a whole bunch of activity all throughout the day. Just people giving talks. We're going to have somebody reenact. Frederick Douglass gave a famous speech called "What to a Slave is the 4th of July?" And his point was, we're not free, you know. I mean, we don't go celebrating on the 4th of July. It's a famous talk, and I think I have a person who's willing, from Penn State, who's willing to give it. All this stuff's going to be happening simultaneously. You can't go to everything. And then in the evening, we'll have a band concert, and we'll also have a Civil War ball. If you want to pay an extra $50, you can come and get some dance lessons early in the afternoon, go get dinner, and then come back later and do, you know, the dances that were popular during the Civil War. Basically, it's just a smorgasbord of old-timey activities and living history. On Sunday, we're hoping to have an interdenominational church service referencing the challenges of war. I mean, a real church service. We're not hiring a reenactor. We're going to try to find a minister who's willing to give a sermon. The encampment will close. We'd like to have a tour of the Union Cemetery with a Civil War focus. And just as a little touch, it was suggested by the Planning Committee, which has had its last meeting. We're not planning this anymore. Now we're trying to do it. The opening ceremony, we want to get permission from the Center County Commissioners to run up an 1860 American flag at the courthouse. And that will be up on Saturday. And on the closing ceremony, which we'd like to have it in the Union Cemetery, because that's where all wars end, in the cemetery, we would like to have that flag up there at the Union Cemetery and have just a brief kind of serious closing ceremony, which would be very small. Now, I've mentioned a lot of things. Some of these things won't happen, and some of the things that I haven't even thought about will happen, but we are now trying to put this thing together. There's no doubt that we'll get something. Will it be fantastic or will it be mediocre? That depends. It's the first time. It's the first time this has happened. If it works and it's not a disaster, What's likely to happen is it'll happen again next year. If it happens 2 or 3 years in a row, it might become a tradition. It has the capability of bringing people to Bellefonte from all over. So that's the big thing. And the other things that I mentioned, I'm pretty sure we'll pull off the Easter parade, and I'm optimistic about the barbershop quartet competition. But these things will actually have economic impact in the borough. I'll just close by saying that there are a lot of other things which I didn't talk about, and I'll just mention a few of them. They're so easy to forget. We have an Out Loud program, which is poetry. Julie Kasdorf does that. She's going to do about, I think, 6 of them. Those will be at the Print Factory, the new bookstore on Allegheny Street. We have a Lest We Forget program. This is about American authors who are dead, but were very popular. And they weren't dead a long time. They were dead like, I don't know, like John Updike or Philip Roth or Steinbeck, people that have been dead, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, something like that. They were very popular in their day. So every month or so, we have one of these. These are small events. They're not going to do much for Bellefonte. They might bring 10 or 15 people into the library, but they're adding to the cultural richness of the town. Once in a while, we can pull off a moth. We failed the last time we tried to do it. The Arts Walk. You may have noticed if you went by the library, and I'm sure you heard about the Arts Walk. We were trying to put up things on the riverfront. That's going to happen again at the library. We did a special edition of the History Pub with Matt Maris, and we're trying to coax Matt into doing a little special research and read a couple of books written by some local people to find out absolutely and definitively why this town is called Bellefonte. I mean, for real. Absolutely, 100% documented. And we're willing to pay him if he can prove it, whatever the story is. Anyway, so we have a lot of little things like that that make the town more interesting. But the economic impact of our activities really resides probably in the Civil War weekend. If that goes well, that will provide probably 80% of our economic impact on the town. But not the cultural impact, but it'll be important. So that's my story. That more than enough?
Thank you. Does anyone have questions?
Of course. Was your group responsible for the jazz performances that used to take place downtown?
If you're talking about those people standing on the street,
Well, there was more like a flat wagon. Was that you?
Me again, I'm going to put on my BHCA hat now. I used to be the president for a very long time, and Joseph now fortunately is, but I'm still a board member. And yes, we used to do Jazz Fest. The Jazz Fest.
Jazz Fest, with Dupre.
Yes.
Yeah, I made a special trip to Pine Grove Hall because she was performing, and I cornered her, and I said, would you ever consider restarting the Jazz Fest? And she said, you got $40,000? So that was the end of that conversation.
Yeah.
However, Rick Hirsch, who's another jazz musician, has supplied us with some of his students for the Bellefonte Busker program, and I'm going to bring it up again with him. I would love, when I hadn't been in Bellefonte very long, and I'm a modest jazz fan. I'm no expert, but there's a guy called Phil Woods who's been dead for a while, and I used to listen to him when I was, 30. And I came into Bellefonte and I saw a poster and it said Phil Woods, and I said, that guy can't possibly be alive. I mean, it's been so many years. And I went to the Jazz Fest, and there was Phil Woods. He came out, and he was dragging an oxygen tank behind him, and he had the little things in his nose, He played beautifully, and he was dead like 3 months later. So, yeah, that's just an irrelevant story. But yes, did we pay for that? Did we?
Yes.
We organize that?
Yes, we did.
Okay, well.
We had when Rob Gannon died, we had a number of memorial contributions, and that was how we chose to spend it.
Well, if we can get our.
Funding and other fundraising for it, but
Yeah, if we can get our hands on enough money to make it happen, we would definitely, I would love to do it again.
Maybe that's what you should be writing a grant for.
There's a thought. Thank you for that question.
Well, if you can't find anyone, we have someone in Aaronsburg, Jay Veneta. He has a jazz band and he performs, and it would be great exposure for him and his guys. his
Well,
group.
actually, we had Jay Veneta and Miss Melanie over there right next to the the thrift store, that little corner there. And that was part of the Bellefonte Busker. And actually, we got Jay and Miss Melanie for $200, and they played for, I don't know, 2 hours. Jay told me he normally gets $400, but I think they had a date later a performance scheduled later that night, so they just did it for us. But yeah, no, I agree. Jay is a local talent, and he's got a following. Okay, is that it?
Just real quick, Joseph. How are you advertising these wonderful events? I know a while back HBI used to do a grant application, Happy Valley. I don't know if that's still being done, but.
Well, yeah, in fact, the Happy Valley grant is just to advertise the events.
Okay.
And we have worked, I've had some meetings I had a couple of meetings with, one meeting with Helen Mellis from Hello Social, and I had a couple of interactions with Blink. And I think we're going to go with Blink, but I'm going to try to get a meeting with with Happy Valley just to find out. Mostly we're going to do a lot of online advertising.
Okay.
But the Civil War community is kind of a peculiar, they have all these special publications. There are all these Civil War roundtables. There's like 150 of them in the country. Lynn Herman is the chair of the local one. They used to meet at the Pennsylvania Military Museum, which is under renovation now. But they meet like once a month. And each of these groups has like, I don't know, 30 or 40 or 50 Civil War enthusiasts in it. So we will probably be sending promotions to those and also using some of the Civil War interest magazines.
Okay.
So anyway, we're going to meet with Happy Valley to get their advice, and then we're going to, because that's the only thing we can spend that money on. If we don't spend it on advertising, we have to give it back.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I don't see any more questions. Is there anyone here willing or wanting to represent the chamber? I know Matt Hill was going to be here, but I don't see Matt Hill anywhere. I don't see. Julie, I know you attend some of the meetings. I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you want to give us a couple minutes update on how the board's restructuring. I think they're going through some changes as well. If you want to come up to the microphone.
So the chamber board has been reorganizing. They have several of their officers. They are still seeking a president and a vice president. They are also getting new members. It came to their attention that a lot of the membership notices did not go out, so they've been working on that, and that will rebuild, a lot of their membership. They had the Blues Breaker event last night. I think there were maybe 25 people in attendance or so. So that was pretty good for as cold as it was. I think they don't really have too many events. There are still some fundraising items for sale. I'm not certain they're going to do the croquet tournament. That hasn't quite been discussed. As I said, they have been working at reorganizing, so a lot of their meetings have been focused on that. So I think going forward, as soon as they identify the president, they'll, get their slate of activities for the rest of the year settled. So, anyone have any questions on it specifically?
Anybody have questions? Julie, I have one. I know in the past we have hired someone, or they have hired someone for the chamber. Is that in the works also?
I believe that will be, but they have to rebuild for their membership, because that's the majority of their funds. So yeah, they're working at that. That may be a year or so before they are able to fund that, I would think, depending on if they get a few fundraisers in as well.
Okay, great, thank you.
Did we miss anybody? I know there's a few of you out there, but we were missing, again, Matt Hill could have spoke for the chamber. Thank you, Jolie. Matt's also part of our Industrial Development Authority. We heard in advance of this meeting that Steve Brawley, who's the president of DBI, could not be here this evening. And I did reach out to the new gentleman, Jonathan Eburn from the print factory. He could not be here as well. So if somebody else wants to add anything, you're welcome to. If not, I think we'll start to move towards closing the work session.
Can I have a motion and a second to close the work session, please? All in favor?
Aye.
Work session is closed. Yes, I should.
That's okay.
Hello, welcome to Bellefonte Borough Council Business Meeting. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Mr. Johnson, can we have roll call, please?
Roll call. Mr. Bernier. Here. Mr. Brackbill. Here. Ms. Cleaton.
Here.
Ms. Dan.
Here.
Johnson is here. Ms. McKean.
Here.
Ms. Purnell.
Here.
Ms. Sedgwick.
Here.
Ms. Tostavasi.
I'm here.
Mayor Johnson. Here. Thank you.
Thank you. Under Act 65 of 2021, if a matter is not on the agenda, council may not take official action on it with the following exceptions. Council can act on matters relating to potential or real emergencies. Council may add a matter of agency business to its agenda through a majority vote. The council must state why the action item is being added to the agenda. Does anybody have anything they would like to add? Okay, next we will have a presentation from Jennifer Patina of the Tax Claims, and she is the Tax Claims and Collections Director.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I would like to announce that the Center County Real Estate Tax Bill will be changing its look. It'll now be on a perforated self-sealed mailer. If you hold on one second here. I do have a slideshow for you to show you the changes. The self-sealer will come out in a perforated form, just like maybe if you receive a check from somebody, you'll tear the edges off and open that up. Once you open that bill, you will see a upper portion, a middle portion, and a lower portion that has your mailing address and your tax collector's mailing address. The upper portion, this is a taxpayer copy of the real estate tax bill that you will keep for your records prior to sending in your remittance. On the top portion, you will see there's the tax collector's information in purple. It will have the office hours of your tax collector's contact information and who to make your check payable to. This lower orange level or gold level has the millage rate disbursements for your jurisdiction, for the county portion, and any borough or municipality. The next section will have what is due. It'll have your 2% discount, your face amount, and your penalty amount. So you know what time frame your payment is to be issued and where you're paying at. If you're paying it to 2%, it's March 1st till April 30th, face, and then penalty. The bottom portion is your property information. This gives you your parcel number, your control number, if you're a residential, commercial, vacant lot, so on and so forth, along with your assessed values on your land, your improvements, and the total assessment, your acreage, what is on the residence, your location address, and your deed reference. On the bottom portion, it will let you know that December 31st is the deadline to pay your real estate taxes. This portion here is what you'll send back for payment to your tax collector. You will send the whole thing back to them. They will send you the top portion as a receipt that is outlined in gold there. They will stamp it with the date they received it and sign it and return that to you. You will want to enclose a self-addressed stamped envelope to receive your receipt back to you, and that's the same protocol as it's always been. And then this will be the taxpayer's copy. Then the lower portion is what your tax collector is going to use to take your payment. If they have a barcode scanner, they will need this to do the scanning. It is their discretion if they keep this or return that to you with your receipt. As it says there, this is a tax collector copy, and that this is at their discretion to mail that back to you, or just the gold section at the top. So in your records, I would keep the top portion as the taxpayer's copy. The lower portion is the tax collector's copy that you'll send with your remittance and get a copy back in the mail. This is the mailer on the bottom. Of course, this is in sections and it all's perforated. You'll be tearing it apart. This will be at your discretion if you want to keep that for your records to show the mailing date, or your choice if you want to disregard it. So that is the look of the new tax bill. Any questions for me at this time? If you do, we have some sample copies here at the borough that if you would like to come and pick them up or contact them, or you may contact our office at the Center County Tax Claim and Collections Office. Our number is 814-355-6805.
Jennifer, I think we have a question up here,
Yes.
please.
Two questions. Is there, in years past, there was a payment plan where people could pay in 3 installments as long as they pay within the 2% tax deadline?
That is typically through the school district.
I beg your pardon?
That's typically from the school district. Usually municipalities don't indicate 3 payment options.
Okay. Can you pay in person?
Yes, so up to the tax collector's office hours that'll be on the tax bill.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions? Rita?
I apologize if this question has been answered at a previous meeting, but I'm just wondering if you can explain to us why we changed from a local provider to somebody who's out of the area.
They're still in Pennsylvania. We found that the current vendor's platform was just a little outdated, so we are moving forward to a more technical. The tax collectors will have an option to have a credit card payment system if they would like, so someone can pay online too, but that is the discretion of a tax collector because they are an elected official.
So was the vendor that we used before given the opportunity to compete with this other vendor before you decided to switch?
We had discussed very vaguely that we were looking to switch, but it was just in our best interest to move to a different platform.
Yeah, I just think it's a shame because now we're going to be receiving 2 tax bills. Is that correct?
If your tax collector or your municipality continues on with the current vendor, yes, there will be 2 tax bills. If they are not and the municipality is going with the new vendor, there will be 1.
Yeah.
And then the school bill will be separate, like always.
It almost gave us no choice, though, basically, because you switched. Then if we wanted to make it easier for our taxpayers, then we had to switch too.
It was either that or stay with the current vendor, correct.
Jennifer, when do you foresee the county sending out their bills, just so we can maybe
March
give-
1st is the deadline. We have to
Okay.
have them out on or before March 1st,
Okay.
and they will be out by March 1st.
Okay, sounds good.
Yes.
Thanks.
Great, thank you. Anybody else have questions?
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for being here.
You're
Thanks.
welcome.
Okay, we'll move on to public comment. I'm sorry, yes, you can, Deb.
I am the borough's tax collector, so I just wanted to say I am working to be able to accept credit card payments. My bank is contacting the county to get that set up. I can't guarantee it will be for this round, but I am working at getting that done. Second of all, I am begging you to please try to get out the borough newsletter with a copy of this tax bill before March 1st, so that every homeowner would have the bill in front of them to see what it looks like.
Thank you.
That's great, thank you, Deb. Okay, public comment period is for oral comments regarding action items listed on this meeting agenda. You must be a Bellefonte resident, nonprofit, representative, business owner, or official representative. Speakers shall identify themselves by name and street, municipality, if outside the borough. Comments are listed to 3 minutes. I don't think we have anything, do we? Thank you, Julie. Okay, under communications, first we have, we need a motion and a second to approve Jalen Meckley as Junior Borough Council member.
So moved.
Thank you. Could we have any discussion? Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Mr. Bernier,
Yes.
Mr. Brackbill,
Yes.
Ms. Cleaton,
Yes.
Ms. Dan,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson is a yes, Ms. McKean,
Yes.
Ms. Purnell,
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick,
Yes.
Ms. Tostavasi.
Yes.
We're going to have the mayor swear Jalen in, please.
Okay, Jalen, please raise your right hand and respond with "I do." I, Jalen Meckley, do solemnly pledge that I accept the position of Bellefonte Borough Junior Council Person. I promise to attend monthly council meetings, observe Borough Council meeting rules, and actively participate in borough business. I understand that I cannot vote on any issue and I cannot attend executive sessions.
I do. Thank you.
If I could get your signature on each of these.
Joanne?
Will she be joining us at the table now?
Quick question, does that mean we have 2 junior council members then?
Yes, we'll
Okay.
have a senior and a junior.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you, Jalen, and welcome.
I think she can. You can
You
have
can
a
come up
seat.
and have a seat.
Welcome.
Jalen, it's nice to have you here. Thank you very much. Okay, we will move on. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We will move on with communications. We have something from Center County Metropolitan Planning Organization. It is their winter report. We don't need to take any action on that unless anybody has a question or comment. A sewage enforcement officer annual appointment, the SEO proposal from Center Region Code. Currently, the position is vacant. Council may take action on this proposal.
Motion to approve?
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second. McKean.
Thank you.
There's a proposal where Center Region Code would provide the SEO service that we're required to have. Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions on that? Can we have a roll call vote, please, Mr. Johnson?
Sure. Mr. Bernier,
Yes.
Mr. Brackbill,
Yes.
Ms. Cleaton,
Yes.
Ms. Dan,
Yes.
Johnson, yes, Ms. McKean,
Yes.
Ms. Purnell,
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick,
Yes.
Ms. Tostavasi.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. On to our consent agenda. Could I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda, please? Okay. Anything else? So we will vote to consent on the financial report and the solicitor invoice, and then take care of the minutes? Could you do a roll call vote,
Yes, ma'am.
please?
Mr. Bernier,
Yes.
Mr. Brackbill,
Yes.
Ms. Clayton,
Yes.
Ms. Dan,
Yes.
Johnson, yes. Ms. McKean,
Yes.
Ms. Purnell,
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick,
Yes.
Ms. Tostavasi.
Yes?
I saw the, we had absent in where people weren't here instead of excused, and it should be excused.
I can take care of that.
Okay.
Thank you, Randy. So that's a motion to,
Yes.
we can still accept that. Would somebody second that, please?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call vote?
Yes, Mr. Bernier,
Yes.
Mr. Brackbill,
Yes.
Ms. Clayton,
Yes.
Ms. Dan,
Yes.
Johnson, yes. Ms. McKean,
Yes.
Ms. Purnell,
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick, Ms. Tostavasi.
Yes?
Okay, thank you. We will move on to reports. Mr. Mayor, do you have anything?
Yeah, just briefly. I think we've all noticed it's pretty cold out, so please check on neighbors, loved ones, be cognizant of pets outside, and, just Bellefonte's a special place. Be a good neighbor and just make sure everybody around us is okay during this really cold time. Thank you.
Thank you for that good reminder. Chief Whitmer, do you have anything tonight?
All right, thank you. Hopefully everyone had an opportunity to review my report for the December 2024. Pretty uneventful for December. That's the way I like it because of the holidays. Something I did want to point out, due to all of our changes, we did close out the year with over 5,100 calls for service. And that's quite a bit for being down 4 officers most of the year. I'd like to acknowledge that the men and women of my department, without complaint, put their head down and move forward. And I appreciate that as being the chief. And we completed the year on a good note. So, anyone have any questions for me with the report? All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Our other reports, does anybody have any questions or comments on any of these? Code enforcement, borough manager? Joanne?
Yeah, on the Office of Community Affairs, on the minutes, my name was missing off of the guest list for January 14th, and I also asked some questions about stained glass windows during the public comment section, but that it wasn't mentioned in those minutes.
Okay, you'll have that.
Thank you. We'll take care of that.
Thank you. Randy?
Couple updates. At the table tonight, you should have Spring Creek Watershed Commission regular meeting from November 20th. And that we passed that on the 15th of January this month. And the other one was the Center Region Council of Governments. Those minutes went out, I think the last time it was September 10th, so that they had some cancellations during that time. So keeping up with these guys, trying to figure out, do I put it in, do I don't put it in? So they're in right now, so. And I just wanted to correct that, so that's
Great.
it.
Thank you very much. Anybody else have any questions or comments on any of the other reports that were submitted or in your packet?
This is usually where we have the junior council member give a report in this section, is that right? It's just not-
Typically, they've been doing it on the first meeting of the
Okay.
month, but, I mean, we're welcome to.
I'm just helping her along here
Sure.
to show her that typically there'd be a
Yes,
slot in here
yes.
for either you or your partner there to have a report during this part of the meeting. But you guys will do it in the first meeting of the month, not the second.
Okay.
Pretty confusing so far?
Thank
No,
you,
you're
Ken.
good? Okay.
You're doing great.
Okay, under current and old business, the authority exploring the placement of wells in the expanded area of Talleyrand Park. Doug, did you want to comment on this at all? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I will.
I'm going to let Ralph take it first,
Okay.
then I'll add to him.
Okay, thank you.
I'm very happy to do it, but I'll probably miss something. I think everybody should go to that diagram that you've placed in the packet
Yes.
of where the wells may be located. That might be helpful during your explanation, I'm not sure.
We did put in a diagram that was shown at the authority meeting. I don't have it available for the computer. But, does anyone have any questions with looking at the diagram? Joanne?
Yeah. I looked at the diagram, and I understand that you're all placing some wells in the Talleyrand Park extension area. Most of them are in the parking lot or on the current Big Spring area behind the fence. Currently, the Big Spring has limited access for the public to the Big Spring and there are cameras there, and I believe alarms to protect our water source from a possibility of attack on our water supply. I remember when I first went through a thing, we were talking about some security issues there. If the two proposed production locations, as well as the potential well monitor, are placed and capped within the Talleyrand extension area, would this mean that once these wells are created, that this part of the park would be secured and therefore off limits to the public? And also, how might this affect the parking areas along Water Street where some of the well monitoring locations are being proposed?
Well, unfortunately, we're very, very early in the process of doing the research to be able to answer all those questions.
Okay.
The only thing that was done so far, and it was planned, is to see where the water flows underground. So the white lines on the diagram that's show the flow, the depth and the flow. So that is where first of all, there's no wells have been drilled to date. But if the authority continues, they would be close to those white lines. And maybe several different areas are spread out near the parking lot, near the Big Spring, because that's where the water is flowing underground. The authority heard that information, and there's questions about where does the rock in the ground begin, because that's important for well drilling and capping the well or having a well that doesn't draw in contaminants from near the surface. So that would be the next step, is trying to determine, where that rock is underground. They call it bedrock, or the limestone is underground. And the authority is going to be discussing that. Do we go down and talk to DEP and show them this diagram? Do we do the test wells first and then take that information down? Each step has pros and cons. It has expenses. They're trying to weigh all that out. So we're a long ways away to really know, all the questions, all the answers to your questions. What we've been told is we're still under budget, or we still would be within budget. And likely, if wells are put in the expanded area, they would have some kind of a covering. I'm going to call it a structure or something where the well comes up out of the ground. Other than that, we shouldn't see much, we shouldn't definitely have access to the park, the parking lot, all that should stay the same. But there will be something, maybe it looks like a rock or it looks like a structure that would cover the wellhead where it comes up out of the ground.
If from what we know at this moment, looking at the diagram, there is no, the yellow dots that you see near the parking area are unlikely places for the wells, but we don't know that for sure at this moment. The most likely ones that they were looking at just on the information that they have, which is ambiguous at this moment, would be the one that is behind the snow cone building. There's a yellow dot. And if you move, I guess that would be north towards the big spring. I don't know, it's right at the I don't know if that's a T125. It connects to that. There's a yellow dot there. Oh, shoot, my computer just went black. And then the two on the grass areas by the Corning pump house. So there, at this moment, there is no plans to put a wellhead in the parking area. But that is all fiction until we locate bedrock and how deep it is. So we're still in that process of doing that. And like Mr. Stewart said, we're still under budget. We're still predicted to be under budget if this all works out with DEP. The blue line is the main line that feeds the pump house. Now, if this all works, I'm imagining the footprint of the wells to be maybe the size of one of these desks behind you. We're still debating on whether we can use the pumps that are in the spring house right now, not the Corning pump house, but the original spring house. We're leaning towards using those, and if that is the case, that building will be vacated, and we would look to maybe create a museum or some tourist attraction in that building, refurnish it. But that again depends on whether we use those pumps or not. So we're still in the planning stages. We have nothing that has deterred us at this moment, but we have a lot of bridges to cross before that happens.
Great. Thank you.
I have a question as well. When I read more work is needed to determine the depth of the bedrock, that tells me we're going to go over budget because where's that? We have 58,000, or is it 85 for the budget?
The budget, I don't want to say right now. It's we did get a grant from the state, and we're permitted within that grant to do this type of analysis. So we're currently using grant funds. So it's not to worry. We're not over budget. Test wells are typically done. It's just we're trying to decide with the advice of the engineer, do we do them before we go down and talk to DEP, or wait till we do the test wells and then go. So we're doing everything by the book, taking precautions, making normal steps, so that we're well within our budget at this point.
Okay, thanks.
Great, thank you. Anyone else have questions, comments? Rita?
Just curious how this affects the band shell discussion. Is this, I'm looking, it doesn't look like you're going into the park much for the wells.
We're not, it may have an impact. The folks from the band shell group, the stage group, have been in our meetings and have heard what we heard and are aware of, kind of where we're at with the phases. The question is on the setbacks of the wells. Typically, the wells require hundreds of feet of a setback so that contaminants like sewer lines and things aren't drawn into the well. Obviously, there's a road there, there's a parking lot, and that's part of the discussions with DEP. You know, will they accept the variance if these wells go into production? You know, and then, of course, there'll be a lot of questions and an analysis that goes with that, but it's just too early to say where, you know, whether this would impact the stage or not.
Okay.
We have kept the stage committee informed every step of the way. So they're very well aware of what's going on.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, moving on to new business. There's a memo in your packet regarding community yard sale, riffraff, Halloween, and holiday parking in the borough. The proposed dates are as follows. For the yard sale, Friday and Saturday, May 16 and 17. Bulk waste riffraff pickup would be Monday through Friday, May 19th through 23rd. And Halloween trick-or-treating hours, 6 to 8, Friday, October 31st. We'll also again have 2-hour courtesy parking program, Friday, November 28th through Wednesday, January 1st. I will need a motion and a second to approve the dates provided for the community yard sale, riffraff, Halloween, and the holiday parking in Bellefonte Borough, please.
So moved, Johnson.
Thank you.
Second, Brackbill.
Thank you. Discussion. Joanne.
This is just a curiosity question. I think it can be done with a clarification on the website when these dates are put up, is that this is just talking about 2-hour courtesy parking, but we have 3 holidays during that period: Thanksgiving, Christmas Day, and New Year's Day, which are typically full free parking. I think if when we put this courtesy parking, just add that those 3 days are actually fully free, and I think that will clarify that we're not backing off on those 3 days.
No, you're right. We do not enforce on those holidays, so we will clarify how that's worded on the website.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. I believe there was also discussion in our agenda meeting about Halloween. We were going to try to get this passed, but that may change depending on school schedules and football games, and if there is a Halloween parade and when that is too. Is that okay?
The Halloween parade, we were told this evening, is going to be on October 25th, not the 31st.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yes, just to follow up, Friday nights, I know council in the past has moved Halloween or trick or treat off of Friday nights because of maybe Penn State football the next day, a lot of people in town, home football games for the high school. We're not sure, that could be moved once we get closer, but right now, we'll leave it as the 31st, 6 to 8.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Bernier.
Yes.
Mr. Brackbill.
Yes.
Ms. Clayton.
Yes.
Ms. Dan.
Yes.
Johnson, yes. Ms. McKean.
Yes.
Ms. Purnell.
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick.
Yes.
Ms. Tostavasi.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next is draft resolution number 01212025-01, amending the council meeting public comment policy. Council may discuss the draft and make additional amendments. I will need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Debbie.
Second, but can we put the words in it before we actually do that, so we don't have to go through multiple motions?
Yeah, we'll just talk about it and do
Okay.
it that way. So you second it?
Yeah.
Okay, and you have comments now,
Okay,
correct?
yeah. There are 2 sections that have blanks in it. It's in the second sentence. It says the order of comment will be blank and then blank. And what I'd like to see is the order of comment will be public comment, and then council comment, including proposed amendments by council members. If amendments are proposed to the original motion, the public will only be allowed to comment on the amendments before final votes are taken.
So that's your amendment to this then, okay. Any discussion on that?
I'm wondering why we're trying to do this. I'm not sure what you're trying to solve. If we have people come in and want to speak to us, they can, and they have 3 minutes. I don't know why we have an issue with that now. Because I think what's going to happen is we're going to have things going on here and get tangled up and things just move on a little slower. I'm just a little confused as to why we need to. I thought we had it pretty well nailed down from last year.
Well, you're right with what we have. My thought in bringing this up was that when there is something to vote on, if people speak at the beginning of the meeting and then we go through the entire meeting, it's kind of separate. But if we are voting on something, I thought it would be better if we spoke first. Council discussed it, and then if anybody in the public had comments, so it would just switch your order, Joanne, is what I thought. And then that way we could hear from the public on those items that are important to them after we have discussed it, so they have a little more input into it.
May I? The reason I put it in this order is that there are often times that we hear comments. We have a thought when we come into the meeting.
Right.
We don't, and then we hear people make comments. And that may change how we would likely to vote. I think having our comments first and then theirs would make it harder for some council members to change their mind before they actually speak. So by having the public say, we're having their input so we can hear what they're thinking about, and then we can move forward with the comments. I do like the idea of moving the comments from the beginning of the meeting to the action items. I talked to Ezra Naines, who's mayor in State College, and asked them about this afternoon to see how they do it. And it's basically what we're talking about here is they never do anything at the beginning. They always bring it down into the agenda.
Okay.
And they do allow additional comments after the public has made something and we've made an amendment. So that was why I added that if amendments are proposed, but I also wanted to limit comments so that we didn't go on forever and ever about people going back to what was there originally. So that was why I added if amendments are proposed, they could, after that initial thing, they could only comment on the amendment at the second attempt.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have thoughts or comments on this, whether you think it's a good idea, helpful to hear from the public?
I think it would be more beneficial, I'm sorry. It would be more beneficial to hear from the public first, and then we can take their ideas into account as we're speaking. And, maybe some things that we're presented with that we hadn't even considered. And just go on. And I like dealing with it as we approach the agenda, too.
Okay, anybody else?
I was just going to add, we have it listed as a trial basis, so I'm thinking maybe 3 months or so, to get a feel for it, and then we'll revisit it and see if it needs tweak. But it's meant to be kind of a trial to see how it works.
Right, and I think the most important thing is that we hear the public on these important decisions, and I thought that was a good way to do it. So,
I have one more thing.
Go ahead.
Look at the room. Who's here? Nobody. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. That's what bothers me about it. Are you going to have 2 people speak for the whole community? I don't think so. I think we'll be going back again, because I didn't like that. I'm going back to that meeting the next one. And I just think it's going to compile all the way around.
Okay. Anybody else? Thoughts on that? Okay, Joanne, since we listened to the webinar with the, it's called a friendly,
So what you have to do is ask Deb as the maker and me as the seconder.
Okay.
If we're agreeable to that, and if we go, that becomes a friendly amendment, and then we just have
friendly
one vote.
amendment, and then we change it to, that would be what your first and second would be on.
Yeah,
Deb?
Yes.
Okay.
and obviously me, yes.
Okay, so then we will be voting to the number 3 will be on a trial basis. Borough Council intends to take public comments related to the motion that is on the floor after it has been duly made and seconded. The order of comments will be public comment and then council comment, including proposed amendments by council members. If amendments are proposed to the original motion, the public will then only comment on the amendment before final votes are taken. So if,
So you're not amending, didn't you have an amendment motion?
No, what Barb is talking about is we had a training last week from PSAB on parliamentary procedure. They said that there are 2 ways to handle amendments,
Okay,
and that the quicker way is to do a friendly amendment that is allowed. And what
Okay.
what that does is, if an amendment is made, like I did,
I got
the
it.
maker and the seconder have to agree to it, and if that does, then we can go ahead as if that was the main amendment,
okay.
main motion.
it saves quite a few
Sure.
steps sometimes. Okay, and I think I got through all that. So we will have a roll call vote, please.
Yes. Mr. Bernier?
No.
No?
No.
Thank you. Mr. Brackbill?
No.
Ms. Clayton?
Yes.
Ms. Dan?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson, yes. Ms. McKean?
Yes.
Ms. Purnell?
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick?
Yes.
Ms. Tostavasi?
Yes.
Yeses have it.
Thank you. The fee schedule approval, this was in your packet. The borough's fee schedule was changed and updated. We need a motion and a second to approve the updated fee schedule as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Deb. Do we have a second?
Second, Johnson.
Thank you. Discussion.
Is this just the, I think there were 3 changes on page 4 under water and
That's correct,
water,
yes.
sewer, and refuse?
Yes,
Mostly
it
about
pertained-
meter installation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Joanne, please.
And this is on the same 3 items, because I figured that's what was being the change. What is an MXU?
It's the gizmo, that's what I call it, that we use to read meters when we drive by. It's attached to your house, and we read the signal when we drive by and pick up the meter reading.
So there's a fee for that. Is the homeowner paying for that, or is that paid for by the borough?
For replacements, we take care of that. Initially, we took care of it for new construction. The developer, the homeowner takes care of it.
So
it's a mix.
theoretically, someone who already has one is not going to have to pay for that.
Yes, unless it's accidental, like freezes, negligence, those kinds of things. But if it just wears out, we take care of that.
Okay, any other comments? We have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Bernier?
Yes.
Mr. Brackbill?
Yes.
Ms. Clayton?
Yes.
Ms. Dan?
Yes.
Johnson, yes. Ms. McKean?
Yes.
Ms. Purnell?
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick?
Yes.
Ms. Tostavasi?
Yes.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments regarding issues that are not on the agenda? Now we would like to have council members' comments for the good of the order. Rita, do you want to start tonight?
Unfortunately, I have nothing, other than I'm happy to be here.
Great, thank you. Debbie?
Yes, I'd just like to let the public know that tomorrow evening, Wednesday, January 22nd, CATA will be having a community input meeting from 5 to 7 in the community room at SCLO Library. The information is posted on the borough website, including the link to the video connection if you're not able to attend in person. CATA will welcome any input, good, bad, or ugly, about the current transit situation, and I encourage anybody who has input to provide to please do so. So thank you.
Thank you. Joanne?
And to follow up with what Deb said, when she mentions there are two website places you can find. One is on the CATA website itself, and if you're going to use that one, you have to go through 3 steps. You go to the CATA main page, which is catabus.com. Then you click on the drop-down menu that says Announcements, and then click on the window titled CATA will host 2 community input meetings. Or much more easily, go to the Bellefonte website, and on our front page is their CATA's press release with a direct link to that page.
Great, thank you. Randy, do you have any?
I have nothing except to stay warm next couple days.
Mr. Mayor?
Warm thoughts, that's all.
Great, if they worked, right? I have nothing special tonight, thank you.
As mentioned earlier, our newsletter deadline is January 31st. That allows us to get everything, finalized, edited, and then we take everything to the printer. And of course, you've heard how important it is to get the newsletter out early this year. So we're going to stick to that deadline. Just if you members of the council or the mayor have something that you, in particular, you would like us to put in, get it to us as soon as possible. But that's going to come up here pretty soon. So we'll get that newsletter out on time and get this very important tax information out to people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
Welcome. Jalen, I'm sorry. You have some tough shoes to fill. You have a good mentor, Chris. He's a good, nice young man. So you're in good company. But we appreciate you taking the time out of your day and your life to come join us, and we hope that it's a valuable experience for you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Just a thank you to the road crews who have been out. We've had more winter this year than we're used to. And then also just a reminder to please clear your sidewalks. There are still some that are a bit treacherous in town, and that's not good for, especially for our young residents who may be walking to school and now are faced with either walking on the road or through the ice. So please take care of your sidewalks.
Thank you.
How about us old people?
Them too. Walking to the library, anybody walking, please take care of your sidewalks.
I don't have anything.
Thank you, Shauna. Kent?
No, thank you.
Great, thank you. I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you want to say something, you're welcome to, Jalen.
I just want to thank you all for welcoming me. I'm so excited to start working with you guys. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I will need a motion and a second to adjourn, please.
So move.
Second.
I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry.
Just a reminder.
Yes, just a reminder, we will have an executive session after this, and that's all we have to say about that, right? So we have a
Motion to adjourn.
Great, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Ralph, can you pass this on to Alyssa?
Yes,
Thank you.
So we'll have this.